What's up, y'all, and welcome back to another episode of the You're Not Done Yet podcast, where your purpose is just moments away, and I am here to help you get there. All right, y'all, so you know what that means. It's another week, it's a new episode, and today it's all about purpose, as it always is. So today we are going to be speaking about, or this week, we're going to be talking about purposeful sacrifice. Purposeful sacrifice was just something that dropped in my spirit, and I really wanted to dive into it. I wanted to dive deep into it for a little bit and just talk about, for one, what does it mean to purposely sacrifice? So I am a firm believer that, your purpose comes with this cost, right? Are you willing to sacrifice everything to pursue your purpose? Are you willing to sacrifice the things that keep you away from your purpose so you can pursue them, right? When I think about purposeful sacrifice, I think about why Jesus died for us, why God decided to send his only son down to forgive us of all our sins and save humanity, right? It was a purposeful sacrifice because God knew that no one else could do it except for Jesus, right? And that's how you have to be when it comes to your purpose. God knows that no one can rock your purpose like you rock your purpose, okay? God knows that. But why are we willing to sacrifice everything else except for the things that he wants you to let go when it comes to your purpose, right? And what does purposely sacrificing look like, right? That means sacrificing certain relationships that don't mean you no good, right? That means sacrificing time to work on your purpose instead of pursuing something that's not in alignment with what God has for you, right? Purposely sacrificing means that it's a possibility that you may have to walk away from that job to pursue your purpose, right? It's a possibility that you are going to be willing to sacrifice the fact that you may not get a promotion because it's going to keep you from pursuing your purpose, right? Sacrifices always have a purpose, but it's what we learn from them and it's what we do with them that's gonna make pursuing your purpose that much better, right? And you guys know I like to tell my story all the time. Right now, I feel like I am in a stage of life where I feel like I am sacrificing everything. I'm sacrificing my social life. I'm sacrificing being a parent. I'm sacrificing not being able to do what everybody else does because I know that my purpose is greater than me trying to keep up with the Joneses, right? It's better than me trying to figure out what everybody else is doing and not focusing on what God has called me to do, right? And we get filled with all of these lies saying that we're not good enough, we're never gonna make it, we're never gonna move to that next level. But what are you willing to sacrifice? What are you willing to give to God to allow him to help you make it to that next step, right? And then the thing is, we're afraid to sacrifice because we don't know what that sacrifice is going to entail, right? But the thing is, if we know everything, if God laid it out for us, like, okay, you have to sacrifice X, Y, and Z in order to get A and B, right? Would you still be willing to sacrifice it if that meant that if you knew what it entailed to sacrifice, would you still be willing to sacrifice that, right? Because you already knew how it ended. You already know what's going to come when you sacrifice it. So what's the fun in that? I feel like sacrifices teaches us a different work ethic because I'm sacrificing because I know there's something greater on the other side, right? But it's always the, well, Lord, how long do I have to sacrifice? How long do I have to go through these hard times, these trials and these tribulations just to get to the other side, right? And like I always say, God will send what you need when he feels like you need it, right? So if God feels like in this moment and in this present time that you need to sacrifice something in order to move to your next step or move to your next phase, I want you to embrace that. I want you to embrace the fact that God thinks of you enough, and he thinks of all of us enough to say, okay, my son, my daughter, it's time. It's time for you to really hone in on what you're telling me that you're willing to do. And even if that means giving up something or sacrificing something that you don't like, right? Because what if in your mind, you're getting your credit fixed to buy you a house, right? And what if God is like, no, I'm gonna need you to sit down for like a year or two before you can buy a house, because I got something that I need you to tend to, right? Buying a house right now is going to steer your focus from your purpose, and I can't have that, right? Or what if you've been saving money, right, to get a new car? You save the money on a down payment so you don't have to make as much payments as you normally would without a down payment. But what if he says, I need you to sacrifice and drive that car that ain't got no AC. You always going to get an oil change every month instead of every 3 months. It's always breaking down on you. It's always something wrong with the battery. But I know that if you get that car is going to become your God and not me, right? But you see where I'm going? It's all about you being willing to sacrifice for the greater good. And that's why when it comes to your purpose, you're always going to have to sacrifice something. And I know it's something that we don't want to hear, but you're going to have to purposely sacrifice something. You're going to have to purposely give it up. You're going to have to purposely be intentional with everything that you do and everything that you say, right? Because your purpose just isn't for you. It's for someone else, right? It's for the next person that's willing to look at you and say like, oh my God, she sacrificed for so many years or so many months or whatever the case may be. And look at her now, right? Like it didn't break her. It didn't cause her to say, well, I give up and I lose faith. No. Purposefully sacrificing is not supposed to make you lose faith, but instead it's supposed to help you gain it. It's supposed to help you expand it, right? It's supposed to make you say like, okay, God, well, you telling me to do this for a reason, so I gotta sit down here and do it, right? Even though I may not like it, but I have to see where this sacrifice is going to lead me because I was faithful. Right? Because I was honest. And the thing is though, I feel like we are always so afraid to be transparent with God when it comes to him asking us to sacrifice things. Listen, I am transparent to the T. Like if God were to tell me to sacrifice something, I would be like, Lord, what? Right? Lord, what? I don't want to do that. I don't want to sacrifice nothing. But then it takes for me to take a step back and say, but are you doing it for you? Or are you doing it for God? Are you doing it for the people that he wants you to touch, right? Because most and oftentimes we are so selfish and think that our sacrifices are just for us. No, it's for the people that are coming after you, right? It's for the people that, like I said, that are listening to you, that are watching you shake and move everything that the devil has thrown at you, right? And it's crazy because you feel like when you sacrifice something, now all of a sudden it's like all hell about to break loose. No. Now is the devil gonna try and come tempt you? Oh yeah. He's gonna try and come tempt you, but at the same time, you know what you're working towards. You know that by you making that sacrifice, I'm working towards something for the kingdom. I'm working towards something that is gonna put me on the other side of where I need to be. Don't look at him asking you to sacrifice as punishment. No, I think of it as it's a test that I am trying to pass with flying colors, right? Now, am I gonna get a couple points knocked off for complaining? Heck yeah. Am I gonna get a couple points knocked off because I took a break and I just was like, no, Lord, right? And I went and tried to figure it out on my own? Of course. But what are you going to do when the going gets tough all the time? When God asks you to sacrifice something all the time, are you going to tell him no? Or are you going to say, okay, God, you're right. This is a purposeful sacrifice. I am sacrificing this for a purpose, right? And allow him to guide you in that sacrifice of purpose, right? Allow him to mold you and spend some time with him. And most of the time when you are sacrificing things, it's like, I don't have no choice but to talk to God. I have no choice but to hop into my word, or hop into my devotion, or hop into my music, or whatever ways you decide to spend time with God. You have no choice, because you don't know what the end is going to look like. All you know is that you have to keep the faith to keep going, right? So don't think as your purposeful sacrifice as punishment. I always look at my purposeful sacrifices as it's something that he wants me to learn. It's something that he wants to show me. It's something that, a concept that maybe I'm not grasping. But until I make that sacrifice, I know what it's all about, right? Until I sit down and I'm like, okay, God, all right, I had to sacrifice, not getting my hair done for a couple months, or God, I had to sacrifice not being able to go out of town for a couple months, or God, I had to sacrifice, staying in the house, because, you want me here for a reason, because financially I just probably wasn't even able to go out, but it was a reason why I wasn't, and I feel like purposeful sacrifices has a lot to do with God just honing in on your attention. There are things that have our attention that have nothing to do with God. There are things that have our attention and we're just like, we feel lost. We feel like we're in the wilderness and we're trying to figure out. But when you're willing to sacrifice the fact of not knowing, sacrifice the fact of you wanting to come out of the wilderness because you want clarity, and you sacrifice in that you're not like everybody else, and you come to that realization, listen, it opens up a new world for you. It opens up something that you couldn't even imagine. But God knows, right? God knows your heart. God knows that there may be some things that you are struggling with right now, and he just wants to lend a hand, right? But you have to be willing to go through those tests. You have to be willing to go through those trials. You have to be willing to go through those sacrifices to lean closer to him, to lean into him, to allow him to get you to understand that, my son, my daughter, like, I'm here. Like, I'm with you. And sometimes it takes for us having to sacrifice the one thing that we never wanted to give up for us to understand his love for us. And sometimes it's sad that it has to get there, but God has a way of moving things around or shifting things to where the only thing that you can do is just call on his name, right? Purposeful sacrifices are a part of life. It's a part of that journey that you take when you walk in your purpose, right? It's that journey that you're gonna forever be on, but it's going to be how you handle it. It's gonna be how you're gonna be able to manage what comes at you through your purposeful sacrifice, right? And listen, you gotta stay in your word. You gotta stay in your word, and you have to stay around people who are on the same path as you, right? And you will know when your friend group hasn't had to sacrifice nothing, because they're complacent. They don't go anywhere. They don't have the ideas to want to go out and pursue things because they're okay with where they are. But you know that you've had to sacrifice some things to get to where you are, and you have an idea of where you want to go and where you want to be, right? But just long as it's in alignment with what God wants for you, right? So think of your purposeful sacrifice as that thing that gets you to the next step, that gets you to your next phase. Okay, I hope you guys were able to get something out of the episode this week of the You're Not Done Yet podcast. I'm so excited to be back with you guys, and next week we're going to be having a special guest, and I'm so super excited for you guys to meet her and we talk about her story. So this has been Purposeful Sacrifice. Thank you so much for everyone who tunes in week after week. Make sure you are following us on Instagram at You're Not Done Yet Pod, and your host, me, at It's Andrea B. Until next time, this has been another amazing episode of the You're Not Done Yet podcast, where your purpose is just moments away, and I'm here to help you get there. All right, y'all. Till next time.